Hello, boys and girls. Hannah Baker here, live and in stereo. No return engagements, no encore, and this time, absolutely no requests. I hope you're ready, because I'm about to tell you the story of my life. More specifically, why my life ended. And if you're listening to these tapes, you're one of the reasons why. I'm not saying which tape brings you into the story, but fear not, if you receive this lovely little box, your name will pop up. I promise. Now, why would a dead girl lie? Hey, that sounds like a joke. Why would a dead girl lie? Answer, because she can't stand up. Go ahead, laugh. Oh well, I thought it was funny. The rules are pretty simple. There are only two. Rule number 1, you listen. Number 2, you pass it on. Hopefully neither one will be easy for you. When you're done listening to all 13 sides, because there are 13 sides to every story, rewind the tapes, put them back in the box, and pass them on to whoever follows your little tale. And you, lucky number 13, you can take the tapes straight to hell. Depending on your religion, maybe I'll see you there. In case you're tempted to break the rules, understand that I did make a copy of these tapes. Those copies will be released in a very public manner if this package doesn't make it through all of you. This was not a spur-of-the-moment decision. Do not take me for granted. Again, you are being watched. I almost forgot. If you're on my list, you should have received a map. Throughout the tapes, I'll be mentioning several spots around our beloved city for you to visit. I can't force you to go there, but if you'd like a little more insight, just head for the stars. Or, if you'd like, just throw the maps away and I'll never know. Or maybe I will. I'm not actually sure how this whole dead thing works. Who knows? Maybe I'm standing behind you right now. I'm sorry, that wasn't fair. Ready, Mr. Foley? Justin, honey, you were my very first kiss, my very first hand to hold, but you were nothing more than an average guy. And I don't say that to be mean, I don't. There was just something about you that made me need to be your girlfriend. To this day, I don't know exactly what that was, but it was there, and it was amazingly strong. You don't know this, but 2 years ago, when I was a freshman and you were a sophomore, I used to follow you around. For 6th period, I worked in the attendance office, so I knew every one of your classes. I even photocopied your schedule, which I'm sure I still have here somewhere. And when they go through my belongings, they'll probably toss it away thinking a freshman crush has no relevance. But does it? For me, yes, it does. I went back as far as you to find an introduction to my story. And this really is where it begins. When you reach the end of these tapes, Justin, I hope you'll understand your role in all of this. Because it may seem like a small role now, but it matters. In the end, everything matters. Betrayal. It's one of the worst feelings. I know you didn't mean to let me down. In fact, most of you listening probably had no idea what you were doing. What you were truly doing. Our first red star can be found at C4. Take your finger to C and drop it down to 4. That's right, like Battleship. When you're done with this tape, you should go there. We only lived in that house a short while, the summer before my freshman year, but it was where we lived when we first came to town. And it's where I first saw you, Justin. Maybe you'll remember. You were in love with my friend Kat. School was still 2 months away, and Kat was the only person I knew because she lived right next door. She told me you were all over her the previous year. Not literally all over her, just staring and accidentally bumping into her in the halls. I mean, those were accidents, right? Kat told me that at the end of school dance, you finally found the nerve to do more than stare and bump into her. The two of you danced every slow song together, and soon, she told me, she was going to let you kiss her, the very first kiss of her life. What an honor. I wanted to see what you looked like, Justin, so we called you from my house and told you to come over. We called from my house because Kat didn't want you to know where she lived. Well, not yet, even though her house was right next door. You were playing ball. I don't know if it was basketball, baseball, or what, but you couldn't come over until later, so we waited. We sat in my front bay window, talking for hours, when all of a sudden, you and one of your friends, hi Zach, came walking up the street. 2 streets meet in front of my old house like an upside-down T, so you were walking up the middle of the road toward us. You stepped out of the gutter and planted 1 foot on the lawn. My dad had the sprinklers running all morning, so the grass was wet and your foot slid forward, sending you into a split. Zach had been staring at the window, trying to get a better view of Kat's new friend, yours truly, and he tripped over you, landing beside you on the curb. You pushed him off and stood up. Then he stood up, and you both looked at each other, not sure of what to do. And your decision? You ran back down the street while Kat and I laughed like crazy in the window. Kat moved away before the start of school, and I fell in love with the boy she left behind. And it wasn't long before that boy started showing an interest in me, which might have had something to do with the fact that I seemed to always be around. We didn't share any classes, but our classrooms for periods 1, 4, and 5 were at least close to each other. Okay, so 5 was a stretch, and sometimes I wouldn't get there until after you'd left, but periods 1 and 4 were at least in the same hall. After a while, I managed to say hello, and a little while later, you managed to say it back. Then one day, I walked by you without saying a word. I knew you couldn't handle that, and it led to our first multi-word conversation. "Hey," you said, "aren't you going to say hello?" I smiled, took a breath, then turned around. "Why should I?" "'Cause you always say hello." I asked why you thought you were such an expert on me. I said you probably didn't know anything about me. Earlier, when I asked my mom how to get a boy's attention, she said, "Play hard to get." So that's what I was doing. And sure enough, it worked. You started hanging around my classes waiting for me. It seemed like weeks went by before you finally asked for my number. But I knew you eventually would, so I practiced saying it out loud. Real calm and confident, like I didn't really care, like I gave it out 100 times a day. And yes, boys at my old school had asked for my number, but here, at my new school, you were the first. No, that's not true, but you were the first to actually get my number. It's not that I didn't want to give it out before, I was just cautious. New town, new school. And this time, I was going to be in control of how people saw me. After all, how often do we get a second chance? Before you, Justin, whenever anyone asked, I'd say all the right numbers up to the very last one, and then I'd get scared and mess up, sort of accidentally, on purpose. I was getting way too excited watching you write down my number. Luckily, you were way too nervous to notice. When I finally spat out that last number, the correct number, I smiled so big. Meanwhile, your hand was shaking so badly I thought you were going to screw it up, and I was not going to let that happen. I pointed at the number you were writing. "That should be a 7, I said. "It is a 7. "Oh. Well, as long as you know it's a 7. "I do," you said, but you scratched it out anyway and made an even shakier 7. I stretched the cuff on my sleeve into my palm and almost reached over to wipe the sweat from your forehead, something my mother would have done. But thankfully, I didn't do that. You never would have asked another girl for her number again. By the time I got home, you'd already called. Twice.